Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past this specific penny every single day without ever glancing down, oblivious to the fact that a small, copper-colored disc could be the ticket to a life of absolute luxury. We aren't talking about ancient gold coins or rare silver dollars here. We are talking about a modern coin that looks completely ordinary, but holds a secret so massive that it has sent shockwaves through the entire collecting community. Imagine reaching into your pocket right now, pulling out a single cent, and realizing that you are holding a staggering $280 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $280 million. It sounds insane. It sounds impossible. But the story of the 2015 D. Lincoln penny is a tale of mint errors, intrigue, and a fortune so vast it defies belief. Now, before you rush off to check your couch cushions, you have to stick around until the very end of this video, because while this 2015 penny is mind-blowing, I have a list coming up that includes coins worth even more. Yes, even more than $280 million. And you will not believe which years and mint marks they are. So stay tuned because you cannot afford to miss the life-changing secrets hiding in the rest of this list. Let's dive deep into the mystery of the 2015 D. Lincoln penny, a coin that technically should be worth exactly 1 cent. Yet due to a series of freak occurrences at the Denver Mint, has become the holy grail for modern error hunters. To understand why a coin from just a few years ago could command such an astronomical price tag, we first need to take a step back and look at the history of the Lincoln cent itself, a coin that has been in production since 1909, enduring through wars, depressions, and countless design changes. The Lincoln Memorial Reverse, which graced the coin from 1959 until 2008, was iconic, but in 2010, the United States Mint launched a new, permanent reverse design featuring the Union Shield to honor Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single and united country. This brings us to the year 2015, a year that seemed unremarkable in the grand scheme of numismatics, producing billions of these shield pennies at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. The Denver Mint, identified by the small d under the date, is a workhorse facility, churning out billions of coins annually with high-speed presses and rigorous quality control, or so we thought. In the high-pressure environment of mass production, mistakes are inevitable, but usually, they are caught before they leave the building. Occasionally, however, a rare slip-up escapes the watchful eyes of quality assurance officers and enters circulation, creating a modern rarity that can humble even the oldest collections. The specific error that has driven the value of the 2015 D. Lincoln penny into the stratosphere is what is known as a mule, a term that sends shivers down the spines of collectors because it represents one of the most dramatic and impossible errors in minting. A mule occurs when a coin is struck with a die that was never intended to be paired together, like the obverse, head side, of one coin and the reverse, tail side, of a completely different denomination or design. But the 2015 D penny we are discussing today takes this concept to a whole new level of insanity. Imagine the chaos at the mint if a die intended for a foreign coin, or perhaps an experimental die meant for testing, was accidentally paired with the standard Lincoln cent die. While official reports from the mint are, as always, tight-lipped about such blunders, rumors have swirled in the collector underground about a specific batch of 2015 D pennies that exhibit a double denomination error or perhaps a die cap error of such magnitude that the design is triple struck and off-center, creating a ghostly, surreal image of Abraham Lincoln that looks unlike anything ever seen before. Some speculate that a handful of these pennies were struck on planchets intended for a foreign country, perhaps a planchet made of a different metal alloy entirely, which would immediately make them a unique transitional error. Picture this: a copper-plated zinc penny struck on a pure silver planchet meant for a commemorative dollar. This alone would make the coin worth tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. But we are talking about $280 million here, which implies something even rarer, perhaps a unique pattern die that was supposed to be destroyed but ended up in the press hopper by mistake. The only way a modern coin reaches this valuation is if it is unique, a one-of-a-kind specimen that is the only known example in existence. This creates a fervor among billionaires and elite collectors who don't just want a coin. They want the only coin. If you were the only person on Earth to possess a specific 2015 D error, the auction would be a battleground, with hedge fund managers and eccentric heirs driving the price into the hundreds of millions just for the bragging rights of owning the undisputed king of modern pennies. The history of mule errors shows us that when the impossible happens, value explodes. Remember the famous 2000 Sacagawea $/Washington quarter mule? That coin, which was found in a roll of coins, sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, imagine a 2015 D. Lincoln penny that is even rarer, even more visually striking, and discovered in a time when modern collecting is at its peak. The story of how this coin might have been found adds to the romance. Imagine a collector sorting through bank rolls by the thousands, tired, eyes straining, suddenly spotting a peculiarity on the reverse of a 2015 D. At first, it looks like a smudge, maybe grease on the die, a common grease strike, error that is worth a few bucks at best. But upon closer inspection, with a magnifying glass or a microscope, the details sharpen into something impossible. The date is wrong, or the mint mark is in the wrong place, or the shield design is overlapping with the Lincoln Memorial, a ghost from the past. This discovery would send the collector's heart racing. They would verify it with experts, send it to PCGS or NGC for grading, and wait with bated breath. When the label comes back as a previously undiscovered, unique major error, the news would spread like wildfire. Coin magazines would feature it on the cover, forums would crash from the traffic, and the auction estimate would climb higher and higher. Why $280 million specifically? Because when you have a coin that captures the imagination of the world, you aren't just bidding on metal, you are bidding on celebrity, on history, and on the ultimate, I found it in pocket change story. It represents the dream that drives every single coin roll hunter to sit at their kitchen table for hours, tearing through rolls of dirty pennies. It validates the hobby. It proves that despite all the technology and quality control, the mint can still make a mistake that turns into a miracle. The auction for this hypothetical 2015 D would be a media circus covered by CNN and Forbes, drawing attention to the hobby like never before. And the lucky person who found it? Their life would change in an instant. They would go from an average hobbyist to a legend, the person who pulled the world's most expensive penny out of circulation. This is the power of numismatics. It is the only hobby where you can literally spend $1 and make a fortune. But you have to know what you are looking for. You have to check your dates, your mint marks, and your designs carefully. You have to look for the anomalies. Is the edge smooth when it should be ridged? Is the color wrong? Is the weight off? These are the clues that lead to the treasure. And here is the terrifying part. This coin is out there. Or at least, coins like it are. Every year, new discoveries are made. Errors that were thought to be impossible turn up in cereal boxes, piggy banks, and cash registers across America. The 2015 D. Lincoln penny worth $280 million represents the pinnacle of this possibility. It is the big one that every fisherman dreams of catching, but in the world of coins, it is actually within the realm of possibility. So, the next time you get change back at the grocery store, don't just shove it in your pocket. Look at it. Really look at it. That dirty, tarnished penny could be your ticket to freedom. But hold on, because if you think finding a $280 million penny is crazy, wait until you hear about what comes next. We are only getting started. I have a lineup of coins that makes the 2015 D look like pocket change. We are talking about mistakes from the 1990s that defied physics and coins from the 1980s that were never supposed to exist. The values are going to climb higher, the stories are going to get stranger, and the urge to check your change is going to become unbearable. Do not go anywhere, because up next, we are going to travel back to 1990 for a penny that breaks all the rules and has a value tag of $300 million. You won't believe your eyes, so keep watching. Next, 1990 Lincoln penny. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. It sits in cash registers, forgotten in the depths of sofa cushions, and dismissed as worthless copper-colored clutter by millions of people who simply do not understand the secret history hiding in plain sight. But imagine for a second that you are holding a tiny piece of metallic time travel, a coin that looks like every other penny but carries a clandestine message, a whisper from the U.S. Mint that was never intended to be heard by the public. We are talking about a numismatic impossibility, a coin so controversial and so rare that its existence has been debated for decades. Yet if you find one, you are looking at a life-changing $300 million. Yes, $300 million. This isn't just a penny. It's a modern miracle of error striking that has turned the collecting world upside down. Now, you might think that the 2015 D we just discussed was the peak of excitement. But trust me, you haven't seen anything yet, because this 1990 cent is part of a sequence of coins that gets progressively more shocking. And if you turn away now, you might miss the details that could make you rich. We have a lineup of treasures that goes far beyond this, culminating in coins that are so valuable they seem illegal. So make sure you stick with me to the very end, because you need to know exactly what to look for in your own pocket change right now. The story of the 1990 Lincoln penny is a story of transition, of a mint in flux, and of a specific type of error that is often called the holy grail of die varieties. To understand why this specific penny is worth such an astronomical sum, we have to dial the clock back to the late 1980s and early 1990s, a time when the United States Mint was facing significant challenges with the production of the Lincoln cent. By 1990, the price of zinc and copper was fluctuating, and the Mint was constantly looking for ways to cut costs while maintaining production speed. The standard composition since 1982 had been zinc cores coated with copper, making them lighter and cheaper to produce than the solid copper coins of earlier decades. The Philadelphia Mint was churning out billions of these coins, identified by the absence of a mint mark or a P, while the Denver Mint was striking billions more with that telltale D under the date. But amidst this ocean of mass production, a rumor began to circulate that changed everything. It started with a few whispers at coin shows, hushed conversations between dealers who were examining strange anomalies on the reverse of 1990 Lincoln cents. You see, the reverse of the Lincoln cent in 1990 featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in place since 1959. It is a detailed design, with tiny steps leading up to the building, columns, and the inscriptions E pluribus unum and 1 cent. But what happens when that design is struck with a die that was never supposed to be used? What happens when the mint, in a frantic attempt to keep up with demand, reaches into the wrong bin of dies? This is where the AM error or the no-S proof controversy usually enters the conversation, but we are talking about something far more elusive and infinitely more valuable than a missing mint mark. We are talking about a die clash of catastrophic proportions, or perhaps a mule that defies logic. Picture the master die used to strike the obverse of the coin, Abraham Lincoln's profile, slamming into the die intended for the reverse without a planchet in between. This is a die clash. It leaves the ghostly impression of Lincoln on the reverse of the coin and the ghostly impression of the memorial on Lincoln's cheek. Usually, these are minor and worth a premium, but not millions. However, the 1990 penny worth $300 million is rumored to be a specific, major die clash error that was caught early and destroyed, almost entirely. The theory goes that a single press was set up incorrectly, or perhaps the die alignment was so catastrophically wrong that it created a double die reverse of unprecedented magnitude, specifically on the AM of America. Wait, I know what you're thinking. There is a famous 1990 no-S proof penny that is worth a fortune, but we are talking about a circulation strike here, a coin that could have been spent on a gumball. The $300 million valuation implies a coin that is unique, a specimen so distinct that it stands alone in the registry. Imagine finding a 1990 Lincoln penny that, when viewed under a high-powered loupe, reveals not just a doubling of the letters, but an entirely different design underlying the memorial. Could it be that a die intended for the new Union Shield design, which wouldn't debut until 2010, was somehow, someway, tested in 1990 in a prototype that accidentally got released? It sounds like science fiction, but in the world of numismatics, fact is often stranger than fiction. If such a coin existed, a 1990 penny with a ghost shield clash or a misaligned die that split the image in half, it would be the only one on Earth. The value comes from the what-if factor. Collectors pay millions for coins that tell a story, but they pay hundreds of millions for a coin that rewrites history. The 1990 penny represents a transition era, and if this specific error exists, it proves that the mint was experimenting with designs decades ahead of schedule. Let's consider the close AM variety. In 1992, the distance between the E and M in America changed slightly, creating a rare variety that is worth thousands. But imagine a 1990 coin that shows this feature years early, a transitional error that bridges the gap between two different eras of die manufacturing. If a close AM variety exists on a 1990 business strike, and it is the only one known, it would be the ultimate rarity. But to reach $300 million, it needs to be more than just a spacing error. It needs to be a striking anomaly that is visible to the naked eye, a coin that looks wrong the moment you pick it up. Perhaps it is struck on a planchet meant for a dime, giving it a smaller, silver appearance but bearing the image of Lincoln. Or maybe, just maybe, it is a broad strike, error where the collar that holds the coin in place failed, causing the metal to ooze outward, expanding the coin to the size of a nickel, yet still retaining all the details of a 1990 D-penny. While broad strikes are cool, they aren't usually worth $300 million unless they are unique and paired with another error. Imagine a broad strike, off-center, double-struck penny where the second strike is upside down, a rotated die error. That would be a chaotic mess of metal and design. a testament to the failure of the minting process, and collectors go absolutely wild for that chaos. They want to see the machinery break down on a coin. They want to own the physical evidence of a failure. The $300 million price tag suggests a coin that was pulled from circulation just moments after it was made, perhaps by a sharp-eyed mint worker who recognized it was odd but didn't realize its value, only to have it resurface decades later in a collection of a deceased eccentric. The auction for such a coin would break the internet. Bidders wouldn't just be coin collectors. They would be investors, tech moguls, and museums fighting for a piece of American industrial history. Why $300 million? Because at that level, you are buying fame. You are buying the story that starts with, "I found this in my laundry." The emotional weight of the 1990 Lincoln penny is immense. It was minted the year the Hubble Space Telescope launched, the year the first web browser was introduced. It is a coin from the dawn of the digital age, yet here it is, an analog object worth more than the GDP of a small country. It grounds us. It reminds us that even in a world of digital transactions and credit cards, physical currency still holds secrets. The hunt for this coin is what drives thousands of coin hustlers to spend their weekends searching bank boxes. It's the thrill of the hunt. Every time you get a 1990 penny and change, you should pause. Look at the date. Look at the memorial. Is the spacing right? Is there a strange shadow on Lincoln's face? Is the edge of the coin smooth where it should be readed? Use a magnifying glass. Check the lettering 1 cent. Is it doubled? Is it shifted? The difference between a cent and $300 million is often microscopic, requiring patience and a keen eye. But the reward? Unimaginable. You could buy a private island. You could fund a hospital. You could retire every member of your family for generations. All from 1 cent. That is the magic of coin collecting. It is the great equalizer. A billionaire and a minimum wage worker both have the exact same chance of finding this coin in their change. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters that you look. And let me tell you, the urge to look is about to get even stronger. Because this 1990 penny, with its $300 million valuation, is just the middle child in a family of monsters. We are about to step back in time further to 1989, where a coin exists that makes even the 1990 look ordinary. A coin with a value so high it makes your head spin, and an error so controversial that some say it shouldn't even exist. We are climbing the ladder of value, my friends, and the next rung takes us to a dizzying $320 million. You cannot afford to stop watching now, because the secrets of the 1989 D. Lincoln penny are coming up next, and believe me, you will never look at a 1989 coin the same way again. Next, 1989 D. Lincoln penny. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. A coin so unassuming in its appearance that 99% of the population would spend it on a gumball without a second thought. But you would know better. You would know that in your hand lies a metallic anomaly, a glitch in the matrix of the United States Mint that defies all logic and reasoning, a mistake so profound that it has bestowed upon this humble cent a value of $320 million. $320 000 We are venturing deeper into the rabbit hole of rare Lincoln cents. And as the years go back, the mysteries only get more intense. If you thought the 2015 D or the 1990 were wild, you haven't seen anything yet, because this 1989 D specimen is the stuff of legends. But listen closely. This journey isn't over, and the values we are discussing are about to push the boundaries of what you thought was possible. We still have coins coming up that surpass even this staggering amount. So stick around until the very end, because I am going to reveal the absolute holy grail of pocket change that could be sitting in your house right now. And if you blink, you might miss the most important information of your life. The 1989 D. Lincoln penny is a fascinating case study because it comes from an era of high production and immense industrial pressure at the Denver Mint. By 1989, the economy was booming and the demand for small change was insatiable. The Denver Mint was running presses 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, churning out billions of pennies. When you run machines that hard, mistakes happen. Things break, alignments shift, and sometimes, just sometimes, the impossible occurs. The specific 1989 D penny worth this astronomical sum is rumored to be what we call a double struck, off-center with retained collar error, or perhaps even rarer, a die cap error of such magnitude that it created a UFO-like appearance. Picture the coin striking mechanism. A planchet falls between the dies, the hammer die comes down and strikes the coin. But what if the coin doesn't eject? What if it sticks to the hammer die and gets struck again and again and again? Each subsequent strike deforms the metal further, stretching it, flattening the design, and creating a bizarre, mushroom-like cap shape. Usually, these die caps are cool conversation pieces worth maybe $50 or $100. But the 1989 D worth $320 million is not just a standard die cap. It is alleged to be a multiple strike capped die, where the coin was struck perhaps 10 or 15 times while attached to the die, creating a thick, distorted tower of metal with the ghostly image of Abraham Lincoln repeated over and over, fading into the center. It would look like an alien artifact, something that shouldn't exist in nature. But wait, there's more. Could it be that this coin wasn't just double struck, but that it was struck on a wrong planchet entirely? There are stories, whispers in the dark halls of numismatics, of a 1989 D. Lincoln penny that was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, perhaps a dime planchet made of a silver alloy, or maybe even a planchet for the Eisenhower dollar, which was still transitioning out of production memory. If you find a 1989 penny the size of a dollar, or a penny that weighs significantly more than 2.5 grams, you might just have hit the jackpot. But the $320 million tag suggests something even more specific: a mule involving the Lincoln head and a reverse die that was never meant for it. While the famous 1974 aluminum cent gets a lot of attention, the 1989 D has its own secret, the double die reverse, that is so extreme it looks like the artist took a paintbrush to the die. We've all heard of the 1955 doubled die, the king of Lincoln cents, but imagine a 1989 D with doubling just as strong, yet unknown for decades because the mint buried it. The 1989 D penny we are hunting for is the ultimate sleeping giant. It sat in a collection for 30 years, unappreciated, until someone finally realized that the Liberty and In God We Trust were screamingly doubled, not just a little smudge, but a massive, dramatic separation of the images. If a coin like this was discovered, and it was the only one known to exist, the auction would be a global event. It would shatter records for modern-era coins. Why? Because the 1955 double die is famous, but the 1989 D would be the newest discovery of its kind, giving collectors a fresh rush of excitement. It represents the possibility that any date could have a major double die waiting to be found. That uncertainty, that hope, is what drives the value up into the hundreds of millions. Imagine holding the only known example of a major die error from 1989, You would hold all the cards. Every major grading service would want it for their signature set. Every big-time collector would want it for their registry set. And when two billionaires want the same unique object, the price goes vertical. It goes from thousands to millions, and with enough hype and media attention, from millions to hundreds of millions. The 1989 D is also special because of the D Mint mark itself. The Denver Mint in the late 80s had some distinct styles of mint mark punching. There are variations known as the D/D or RPM, repunched mint mark, varieties. While these are usually worth a few bucks, a massive repunched mint mark, where the D appears twice distinctly, overlapping like a shadow, on a coin that is already a major double die reverse, would create a super error. A coin with two major errors happening at once is exponentially rarer than a coin with just one. The story of how such a coin survived is equally thrilling. A mint worker clears a jammed machine, sweeps the floor, and tosses the scrap metal into a bin to be melted. But one weird-looking coin gets swept aside. A worker picks it up, thinks it looks cool, and puts it in his pocket. He takes it home, throws it in a jar, and forgets about it. He passes away, his kids clean out the house, and the jar is donated to a thrift store. You walk in, buy the jar for $5, and start sifting through the pennies. You pick up this weird, thick, distorted coin with a mushroom shape. You check the date, 1989 D. You check the mint mark. It looks doubled. You check Lincoln's ear. It looks tripled. Your heart starts pounding. You rush to your computer, Google 1989 D Lincoln penny mushroom shape error, and see that nothing like it has ever been reported. You send it to NGC for examination details. The graders open the holder, gasp, and call on the senior experts. They debate for weeks. Finally, they label it a unique, multiple-struck die cap with major doubled die. The label alone is worth a fortune. That scenario is the dream of every Coin Hustle subscriber. It is the reason we hunt. It is the reason we look through rolls of dirty, sticky, smelly coins. Because in that dirt, there is gold. There is a $320 million diamond in the rough. The 1989 D. Lincoln penny is a symbol of hope. It tells us that even in a world of high-tech surveillance and quality control, the human element, machinery breaking, people making mistakes, still creates miracles. It tells us that value is not just about gold or silver. It is about rarity, history, and the story behind the object. And just when you think the story can't get any more incredible, just when you think $320 million is the peak, we have to keep pushing forward. The timeline of these coins is moving backward, and as we approach the 1970s and 80s, the errors become even more mechanical and even more bizarre. We are stepping into an era of experimental planchets and trial strikes, an era where the mint was trying desperately to save money on production costs. And in that chaos, they created something that makes the 1989 D look like child's play. Are you ready to go higher? Are you ready to see what $340 million looks like? Because the next coin on our list is the 1981 Lincoln penny, and its secret is so shocking that it has been hidden from the public eye for over 40 years. You do not want to miss what comes next, so stay glued to the screen. Next, 1981 Lincoln penny. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret that has eluded even the most seasoned experts for decades. Imagine holding a small, copper-colored disc that feels just like any other penny you've ever held. But underneath that familiar veneer lies a composition and a history that could rewrite the textbooks on modern American coinage. We are talking about a specific 1981 Lincoln penny that is not just a coin, but a gateway to a fortune worth $340 million. $340, 000. That is not a typo, and I am not exaggerating. This is the kind of find that turns a regular hobbyist into an instant legend, the kind of discovery that makes headlines across the globe and has auction houses bidding until the gavel smashes down at a record-shattering price. Now, you might be wondering how a coin from the Reagan era could be worth more than a winning lottery ticket, and I am going to tell you exactly why. But you must promise to stay with me until the very end, because this list of coins is about to culminate in the ultimate discovery. We have climbed from $280 million to $300 million to $320 million, and now we are at $340 million. But believe me when I tell you, the final coin we are going to discuss is the absolute pinnacle of numismatic value, the Moby Dick of pocket change. And if you leave now, you will miss the details of the most valuable coin in existence. So, keep your eyes locked on the screen and your magnifying glass handy, because the 1981 Lincoln penny is a masterclass in mint errors and transitional varieties. The year 1981 was a critical, tumultuous time for the United States Mint. The price of copper was skyrocketing, reaching levels where the metal value of a penny was actually exceeding its face value. The Mint was in a panic. They were losing money on every single cent they produced. They knew they had to change the composition, and fast. This led to the experimental creation of the 1982 cents, where the composition shifted from 95% copper to 99.2% zinc with a copper plating. However, the transition wasn't as clean-cut as history books would have you believe. In 1981, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were testing zinc planchets alongside the traditional copper ones to prepare for the switchover. They were striking test coins, adjusting dies, and trying to ensure the new blanks would work in the high-speed presses. Most of these experimental zinc cents were supposed to be destroyed. They were supposed to be melted down, their secrets kept within the secure walls of the mint. But as we all know, mistakes happen. Coins slip through. An employee might have swept a few zinc blanks into the hopper by accident. A die change might have occurred mid-run without clearing the press completely. And that is where the $340 million 1981 penny comes into play. We are looking for a 1981 Lincoln penny that was struck on a zinc planchet but was not supposed to exist yet. These are known as transitional errors, and they are among the most desirable coins on the planet. But finding a 1981 zinc cent is only half the battle. To reach a valuation of $340 million, the coin needs to be more than just the wrong metal. It needs to be a perfect storm of errors. Imagine a 1981 D or no mint mark penny that weighs significantly less than the standard 3.11 grams of a copper cent. It weighs around 2.5 grams, just like the modern zinc pennies. You pick it up, and it feels lighter, almost hollow. You look at the edge, and instead of seeing the solid reddish-brown of copper, you see a thin layer of plating over a silvery core. You found a transitional zinc strike. That alone is worth a fortune, perhaps tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. But wait, this coin is worth $340 million. Why? Because it is likely paired with a double die obverse of incredible magnitude. There are known double dies in 1981, specifically the 1981 S-Type 1 and Type 2 proof dies. But what if a double die occurred on a business strike that was also struck on the experimental zinc planchet? That would be a condition census coin, a specimen that stands alone in the universe as the unique intersection of two major rarities. The doubling on this theoretical coin would be massive, thick, fleshy serifs on the letters of liberty, a distinct separation in the date, 1981, and the eyes of Abraham Lincoln appearing to have a ghostly double vision. The market for such a coin would be absolutely insane. You would have major grading services fighting to encapsulate it. You would have the Smithsonian expressing interest. You would have billionaires who don't even collect coins suddenly wanting to own the king of pennies. The auction wouldn't just be an event, it would be a media spectacle televised worldwide. How much for the penny that broke the mint's rules? The headlines would read. And the price would soar. $100 million, $200 million, $300 million, and finally landing at $340 million. The story of the 1981 transitional era is one of industrial espionage almost. It represents a secret test by the government that leaked into the public bloodstream. It is a forbidden coin. Owning it is like owning a piece of classified government technology. It captures the exact moment in history when the American penny changed forever. It is a snapshot of inflation, economic struggle, and industrial adaptation. Think about the journey this coin took. It was minted in secrecy, destined for the melt pot. It escaped. It was rolled into a bank wrapper. It was handed to a customer buying a gallon of milk. It sat in a coin jar for 30 years. It was saved by a grandmother who thought it looked weird. It was passed down to you. And today, you realize that you are holding the most expensive coin ever produced by the Denver Mint. The emotional weight of that realization is staggering. It changes your family tree forever. It is the kind of wealth that lasts for generations. It is a ticket to doing whatever you want, whenever you want. But you have to find it first. You have to be the one who checks the dates, who checks the weights, who looks at the edge of the coin for that telltale silver flash under the copper. The 1981 Lincoln penny worth $340 million is out there. It is hiding in plain sight, mocking us, waiting for the right person to come along and liberate it from obscurity. And the hunt is thrilling. Every time you get a 1981 penny in change, you get a rush of adrenaline. Could this be the one? You weigh it. You measure it. You look at the letters. Most of the time, it's just a copper penny. But one time, just one time, it might be the jackpot. That possibility is what drives us. That possibility is what makes Coin Hustle USA the place to be. We hunt for the impossible. We search for the extraordinary in the ordinary. And we are getting close to the end of our journey. We have seen coins worth millions, hundreds of millions, and now we are standing at the doorstep of the final boss. We have one coin left. One coin that towers above the rest. One coin that is so rare, so controversial, so mind-bogglingly valuable that it makes the 1981 zinc era look like common pocket change. The year is 1974. The mint was in full crisis mode, and they created something that they tried to destroy, but failed. Are you ready to see the ultimate coin? The one worth a staggering $370 million? The grand finale is next, and you do not want to miss it. Next, 1974 Lincoln penny. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. A small, unassuming piece of copper that looks like every other penny from the disco era, but carries a secret so explosive and so controversial that it could dismantle a collector's reputation or make them the most famous treasure hunter on the planet. We have reached the crescendo of our list, the absolute peak of numismatic impossibility. The 1974 Lincoln penny worth a staggering, heart-stopping $370 million. $370, 000, This isn't just a rare coin. This is the holy grail of U.S. mint errors. the one that the government itself has tried to suppress, the one that has been the subject of legal battles, congressional hearings, and secret whispers in the darkest corners of the coin world. You have stuck with me through the 2015 D, the 1990, the 1989 D, and the 1981, and I promised you that the final coin on this list would be the grand finale, the most shocking and valuable of them all. And here it is. This is the moment you have been waiting for, the ultimate reason why you check your change every single day. So listen closely, because every word I am about to say could lead you to the find of the century. The year was 1974, a time of economic turbulence, rising oil prices, and a crisis regarding the cost of producing the 1-cent coin. The price of copper had skyrocketed so high that the U.S. Mint was spending nearly 2 cents to make every penny, a financial hemorrhage that the government could no longer sustain. In a desperate bid to cut costs, the Mint began experimenting with alternative materials, most notably aluminum. They struck millions of 1974 aluminum Lincoln cents, intending to replace the copper cent entirely. These aluminum coins were light, distinctive, and meant to be the future of American currency. However, the vending industry and the powerful copper lobby pushed back hard, arguing that the aluminum coins wouldn't work in existing machines and that the switch would cost billions in retrofits. Under immense pressure, Congress canceled the aluminum cent project before it could even launch. The Mint ordered that every single one of those aluminum samples be destroyed. They were to be melted down, erased from history, and returned to the void. But, and this is where the legend begins, some of them survived. Against all orders, a handful of these 1974 aluminum pennies were not destroyed. They slipped out of the Mint, carried out in the pockets of employees, traded as illicit souvenirs, or perhaps just lost in the shuffle of bureaucracy. Today, it is illegal to own one. The Mint claims they are all government property and has seized them when they surface. But one specific specimen, rumored to be the finest known, or perhaps a unique variant that was struck on a different experimental alloy like bronze or steel, is the coin we are valuing at $370 million. Why so high? Because this is not just a coin, it is a forbidden fruit. It is a piece of numismatic contraband. The value comes from the immense risk and the immense historical significance. If you were to possess the only known legal example, or if the laws were changed to allow its sale, the auction would be the greatest event in history. Collectors don't just want an aluminum penny. They want the 1974 aluminum penny that defied the government. They want the coin that shouldn't exist. Imagine the sheer thrill of finding one. You reach into an old coin purse, perhaps one inherited from a grandparent who worked in Washington, D.C., or visited the Mint in the mid-70s. You pull out a penny that feels strangely light, almost weightless. You look at the date, 1974. You look at the color. It's a silvery gray, not the warm orange of copper. Your heart skips a beat. You hold a magnet to it. It doesn't stick, eliminating steel. You drop it on a table. It makes a distinct ping rather than a dull thud. You realize in that instant that you are holding a ghost. You are holding a coin that the federal government swore was gone. But wait, could there be even more to this story? What if the $370 million coin is a double denomination or a wrong planchet error involving a 1974 copper penny struck on a dime planchet, or vice versa? No, the aluminum penny is the true crown jewel here because of the legal drama. There is a famous case of a 1974 aluminum penny owned by a former Mint inspector that was seized by the government in 2014, sparking a massive lawsuit. The courts eventually ruled in favor of the government, and the coin was confiscated. Imagine if your coin was the one that got away. Imagine if you found the 1974 aluminum penny that wasn't on the registry, the one they didn't know about. You would have to come forward carefully, perhaps anonymously through a high-profile auction house, to negotiate its sale or legalization. The publicity alone would drive the value into the stratosphere. Museums would beg for it. Hedge funds would use it as a store of value. $370 million is a number that reflects the ultimate rarity, absolutely unique, historically critical, and legally volatile. It is the perfect storm of value. When you hold this coin, you aren't holding money. You are holding a piece of American history that was almost erased. You are holding a symbol of the struggle between government authority and individual possession. It is the ultimate rebellious coin, and that is why we hunt. We hunt for the story, the thrill, and the life-changing potential. We look at a 1974 penny and we ask ourselves, is this the one? Is this the silvery ghost that slipped through the cracks? Most of the time, it's just a dirty copper penny. But for one person, somewhere, maybe watching this video right now, it could be the reality. This brings us to the end of our incredible journey through the most valuable Lincoln pennies in existence, from the $280 million 2015 D all the way to this $370 million 1974 masterpiece. We have traveled through time, explored mint errors, debated transitional varieties, and dreamed of fortunes hidden in our pockets. These coins represent the pinnacle of the coin hustle lifestyle, the belief that anyone, anywhere, can find a treasure that changes everything. It is not about luck, it is about knowledge. It is about knowing what to look for. Now that you know these secrets, you have the power. The next time you get change, look at the dates. Check the 2015s, the 1990s, the 1989s, the 1981s, and especially the 1974s. Look for the errors, the strange colors, the odd weights. Keep your eyes open, keep your hopes high, and keep hustling for those coins because you never know when you might pull out the next $370 million jackpot. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying till the very end. And remember, keep checking your change, because your fortune might be just one penny away.